Thursday evening and the house is full. My name is, well, I think we have the members that know us here. So, but in case you don't, my name is Ines Bulic. I'm here from the Secretariat. I'm not a board member, from the ENIL Secretariat, just to moderate the discussion. And we are hoping to have more of an informal meeting, but we have a little agenda just to kind of to make sure we get to discuss everything, we don't forget anything. So just before we get started, well, we do have captioning today, so in case anybody doesn't need captioning, please click on the CC button and you will be able to see the captions. What else? We are live streaming this meeting just so we have a recording for those who are not able to join tonight, or for people who want to follow there instead of being here with us in the meeting. This is the meeting format, it's not the webinar format. So once we get to the discussion, I think everybody can raise their hands, you can speak. You can use the chat function to ask a question, whatever you prefer. And I think that's it for the housekeeping things. Let's get started, and I'm going to mute myself then, as might be some background noise. So I would like to invite the board members to introduce themselves. Maybe just to say, first of all, that we have a couple of board members who couldn't join us for various personal reasons. So Jamie Bowling, one of the co-chairs of the board, she's not here tonight. Jukka Kumpuvuori from Finland, he is not here. And Vibeke Malloy Melstrom, she's not here, from Uloba. We will have a separate meeting with Uloba tomorrow, so she will be there in case anybody would like to hear from her. But we do have the other board members here, so we can start with, we can meet them and talk to them. So I'll start. I'm just going to go through my list, and so you know who, so we you know when to speak. So maybe start with Michael. You're first on my list. Maybe just introduce yourself. Yeah, whatever you want to say.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. And thank you to Ines and Camille for organising. My name is Michael Holden. I live in a rural village about 18 miles south of Belfast in Northern Ireland. I am the chairman of the Centre for Independent Living here in Northern Ireland, where we help the disabled community with direct payments and to live independently in the community. We also work with the taxation offices so that their PAs pay all their taxation properly, and we calculate all of those things, as well as signpost them to other information and state benefits that they would be entitled to. As part of my work here in Northern Ireland, I also sit on the United Nations Committee who monitors the UNCRPD protocols in the United Kingdom, and we report to the United Nations on how we feel things are changing, improving, or regressing in Northern Ireland. In my private life, I run a social enterprise which is staffed entirely by people with disabilities, and we provide equipment and install equipment for disabled bathrooms and toilets. We also build mobile units that we take to outdoor events and concerts, so that disabled people can use a clean, accessible toilet with dignity. It's a high dependency toilet units. They have ceiling hoists and hospital beds inside them, as well as toilets, showers, and hot and cold running water. I'm married, my wife Jennifer, and we have two growing children, Georgia, who is 18 and is sort of preparing herself for university. Noah, who is 15, and Noah has autism. He was diagnosed when he was 3 years old. And we have two beagle dogs, Bertie and Archie, and a black cat called Bagheera.
Thank you very much, Michael, for telling us a bit about yourself. Let's go to, who do I have next on my list? Armen.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Armen, and I'm from Armenia. Armenia is not a member of European Union, but member of Council of Europe. I'm the head of Unison NGO, the lead Armenian organization promoting independent living, inclusion in other aspects of the rights of disabled people. And currently the situation in my country is not very favorable, not only because of COVID-19 pandemic, but also as consequences of the terrible war which we had last year, as autumn of last year. So we have unfortunately thousands of victims, also dozens of thousands, probably no new disabled people, and we must deal with all of them. And in a few words about myself, I'm 57. I live in the capital city of Armenia, in Yerevan, and I am married, and I'm a proud father of two sons. And I am a violinist. The idea and philosophy of independent living is really hard to promote in my country, and I will bring you a small sample. Years ago, a woman called our office in Unison and asked for an appointment, and she asked if she could bring her little child with her, and we said of course, and we made an appointment. And then at the day, an elderly woman and a man in his 50s came into our office, and the first question we asked was, of course, where is the child? Did you manage to bring him? And the woman pointed at the man and said, he is my kid. So the child was 54 years old. I hope it give you an idea of how far Armenians were from independent living for disabled people. But still, because our parents, especially our parents of disabled people, take over care of their children, and these are also all challenges. Anyway, we try to challenge the situation, and we have some successes. We lobby the new legislation, and we have now the law where finally we have personal assistance. The mentioning of personal assistance, not really personal assistance, because there are no practical ways of implementing this. But still, this is the first step. We are contributing to developing of the alternative report on the UN CRPD, the convention. We use also other traditional methods like workshops, conferences, other things. We have an employment center, and we are proud that we were able to get to jobs to inclusive jobs, not to sheltered employment, hundreds of disabled people. And we also try to use non-standard methods, and sometimes this works better, like beauty contests for disabled women, flash mobs, public actions, outdoor actions, etc. And we heavily promote accessibility, and Yerevan will soon have accessible buses, more buses, and that public transportation will be more or less accessible. And capital city also is, the streets are mostly accessible, but not all the buildings, only the big malls, supermarkets, and hotels, etc., are accessible fully or partly. So we have lots to do, and especially in the terms of awareness of what independent living is. For example, in the new law, or not new law, but new regulations, provides for personal assistant to whom you may think for disabled people. No funding for disabled people to hire personal assistants, but for personal assistants are expected to be in the so-called independent living centers. This is totally odd, and we of course have much to do. So that's brief about myself. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Armen. I suggest we go to Suela from Albania. Suela.
Thank you, Ines. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Nice to see you. And nice to see Matilde, whom I have met in person. Hello, Matilde. Sorry for the others, but I think I haven't met you in person, so I just wanted to send a special greeting to her. I loved the presentation of Michael and Armen, and also the private details of the presentation. So I'll try to stay in that in that atmosphere. So I live in Tirana, in a crowded area, so you might hear sirens and noises because, yeah, it's that part of the city. And yeah, I'm a disability activist since many years, and I'm quadriplegic myself. I have a disability since I was 14 years old, so most of my life. And so I've done disability activism for years I can't count anymore. I direct an organization which is called Together Foundation, and we are one of the few organizations in Albania that have a solid understanding of the independent living, I think, which is still not yet understood fully by DPOs. And we do also other work because, that's the funding available. Those are the calls like electoral rights we had, and employment for persons with disabilities, accessibility, majorly and most importantly. So we do other things as well, but, I'm proudly, and I should say this also, I felt most belonging with ENIL at any other group that I participated regarding, because I felt most understood as a person with a disability, and my needs were better, let's say, addressed in the ENIL's mission. So saying that, I'm also a proud board member, and proud also to be, I guess, the first Albanian board member. Not married, very happily single at the moment. So that's good. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Suela. No pets?
No. My mom would throw them out of the window, so.
Okay. Better not then. Let's go. Thank you, Suela. Let's go to Radosh.
Hi, thanks, Ines. I'm Radoš. I'm coming from Serbia, but at the moment I live in England. That's where I work at the University of Leeds at the Center for Disability Studies. I'm working on a research project as part of my PhD. The research project that looks into disabled children's participation in healthcare decision making, because I want to see to what extent children have their say in their childhoods and these important medical decisions, whether they're informed on it, whether they know why it is being done to them. And yeah, sometimes in our childhoods, like, we are very far from the social model, and we only learn to think in the deficit way of thinking about disability, and just to pursue some kind of medical cures and therapies, which sometimes don't really lead to the best results and expected cure. I used to work for UN, for United Nations in Serbia, for High Commissioner for Human Rights. We were working on the projects related to legal capacity, deinstitutionalization, employment of disabled people, although it's a little bit difficult in the environment when the disabled people's movement is really weak, and that's why recently I tried to invest my time voluntarily to try get young disabled people together and start building some kind of more progressive movement based on independent living principles, of which I was infected or actually learned about it through ENIL, and I really would like to see that that more and more young disabled people get involved in the independent living movement and actually know what it means and how to promote it and how to engage in it. So yeah, shortly, that's about me. I work also as part of the European Union funded project, which includes like 14 disability studies related projects across Europe, and many of my colleagues are working on some other interesting disability related projects that might be useful to promote independent living in different countries. So yeah, if you want to learn more about that, I would be happy to share more information. I was also part of ENIL Youth Network. My 2 mandates in ENIL Youth Board expired, and now I'm getting close to the end of this mandate in ENIL Board. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Radoš. I was going to say that you came from the youth board, so we have that as well. Let's go over to Tess. Tess, are you here?
My name is Tess. I'm from Belgium, like Nadia Haddad. I'm volunteering in different organizations for disabled people, like GRIP, VZW, VFG, and we do all kinds of things to promote inclusion for disabled people. Doesn't matter whether it is school, work, free time, and also other things.
Thank you, Tess. And I think we have, Tess mentioned Nadia. So Nadia is the last board member we have here. Nadia,
okay.
Want to go next?
Okay, thank you. Good evening, all of you. I just want to complete Tess, her introduction. I saw her in the newspaper last week. And indeed, she's working on different area. It was about green energy. So
yes. It goes about to get to pay less for disabled people, forget electricity because the electricity are more and more expensive.
Okay, thank you, Tess. Well, just to introduce myself, so my name is Nadia Haddad. I'm involved with ENIL since the Freedom Drive of 2009. And I'm in the board since 2013. I was working in the development cooperation area until 2003, where I broke my neck. And since then, I was already lobbying for inclusion and for taking into consideration human rights of all people independently where they live. And since I became disabled myself, I started then to combine and persons with disability and development cooperation. So that's what I do in my real job. I'm working in an NGO. We do adapted technologies for development cooperation, but also we adapt now for the needs of persons with disabilities themselves. And the other part-time is I dedicated to lobby work. So within Belgium, I'm involved also in GRIP. I'm a board member of there, where we are part of the monitoring mechanism, like Michael said, who follow up the implementation of the CRPD inside Belgium. We do shadow reporting each time. We are working now on the second one. That will happen normally. The review of Belgium will be next year. So working on our shadow report for the moment. I'm also involved in the local city of Brussels region advisory panel for persons with disabilities to try to make Brussels, for those who know Brussels, a little bit more accessible. And that's a very, very big challenge because it's so complicated. It's really, the Belgium system. We have 3 regions, 3 different parliaments, and we deal with more than 600 different parliamentarians to get something voted. So I think that's it, more or less, for the moment.
Thank you, Nadia. So we've heard from, I think, all of the board members we have here, from 6 of them. As I said, for those of you who joined a little bit later, we have 3 board members who couldn't make it. And that is Jamie, who's also the co-chair, Jamie Bowling, Jukka from Finland, and Vibeke from Norway. But thanks to everyone for introducing themselves. I would suggest before the idea is really to have a conversation with people who joined here to answer any questions, but maybe before we get to that, just to explain a little bit for those of you who are not familiar about the board, and I'll let Nadia also complete that. So ENIL, we elect, so we have 9 board members. They are elected every other year. And we were supposed to actually have the board elections now in Brussels at the Freedom Drive. But because of COVID, because of the pandemic, the elections were postponed until next year. So we will have elections hopefully in September 2022. And also the way it works is half of the board members stay and half of them get elected. To basically to keep some continuity within the board. Of course, people may step down in the meantime if they no longer can have time to be on the board. I guess that's the board meets 4 times per year, about 4 times per year, and we have our meetings online to save costs. And also, usually the board would meet in person during the Freedom Drive, but again, not this year. I would maybe tell Nadia, let Nadia say a little bit more about what board members do within ENIL. Nadia is one of the, I don't think you mentioned it, Nadia is one of the co-chairs of the current board. So maybe just explain, Nadia, a little bit about the role of the board members in the organization.
Okay, maybe firstly, what makes us different than other boards is that we are all persons with disabilities, so the whole board is disabled. And more than the half of the board members is using personal assistance. And that's why for the independent living movement, it's very interesting to have that expertise or that experience by living day for the board members. So what our board members are supposed to do or do most of the time. So it's following up a little bit the strategic planning that we have. And it's we are supported by the staff. So every 4 years, we make a new one. 4 or 5 years, there's a new strategic plan with priorities each time and different areas about awareness, about, I know that most of the members know the different campaigns and other activities that we realize. But most of the time when other board members is there, we ask them to dedicate at least 5 hours a month to write something from his country to report on something that is aligned with independent living or really not aligned with independent living, to be a kind of watchdog over what's happening in his region, or even when he has other contacts with United Nations or with other strategic partners, to highlight this to us in order that we can follow this up closely. Board members are also supposed legally to support the organization in realizing all the projects that we have, the different projects. And I think Ines is a better place to explain the projects for those who want to more know about the projects. We are also there with the responsibility that the staff is working well, feeling good, and that the team is, that we have continuity, especially in our staff. So that's more the administrative part. When we have a board meeting, we always have a report of the secretary to have that feedback, and we receive also the programs before, so that we can ask question or ask for clarification or ask for why this or that. So there is a very openness between the staff and the board members themselves, and most of the time it goes through Ines, who's the executive director for the moment. Previously, we always had directors, but due to a loss of our operational grant and subvention, everything lay back on Ines. So Ines is now managing and the staff and the content. And when people ask about taking position or everywhere, it always comes back to Ines. Within Ines, within ENIL itself, we also have a committee, an audit committee, and a membership committee who prepares the board each time when there is an application for new potential members. They meet and they do pre-selection, and they advise the rest of the board on the statute of the demand, and we vote on it during the board meetings themselves. Same thing with the audit committee. They prepare the financial part. And then during the board meeting themselves, we have our office manager who will explain a little bit all the financial documents and give us an update about the cash flow. And then, we approve and we second each board the financial situation, which is something really important also. We are always looking after board members who has some special expertise. Like we have, for the example, now Radosh doing a lot of research, so that helps us a lot. Sometimes as organization, we are demanded to give advice, but also sometimes to participate to Congress, as panelists or to moderate. So most of the time we see, depending on the availability and also the expertise and the wish of the board members. So we ask them if they want to represent us, and so they go and they speak for ENIL. Sometimes it's ENIL Youth, sometimes ENIL Senior, and sometimes wherever we find available. Sometimes it's really hectic, but due to the COVID situation, the last 2 years, it was not so intense, and through webinar, it was much easier to realize. So I think that's more than enough for the moment. And if you have any other question, just raise your hand or take the floor. I leave it over to you, Ines.
Thanks, Nadia. Just to say that we also have Camille here with us from the Secretariat, so it's not only me. And Peter, our ESC volunteer, is also here as well. So there's lots of people, thankfully, helping out. I would, as Nadia said, I would open the floor. So I see Matilda's hand, and please, everyone, feel free to raise your hands with your cameras on, unmute yourself. But let me give the floor to Matilda.
Yes, hello, everybody. I am part of the nominating committee, and maybe we can explain what is it. It's a 4-member committee with Vanilla, which is online, and 2 other members, which is not here. And we try to organize the General Assembly, and we receive the candidature, the application for the election of the board, and we make interview of the applicant, and we explain what is the board and what is the work. So in fact, I want to say that, because if someone would like to nominate, to apply for being part of the board meeting, it's very easy. We probably would make an announcement in about 6 months before the General Assembly, and then we, the little nominating committee, we took contact with you and explain everything you need to know, and then we put your candidate, your application to the vote. So just want to say that.
Thank you very much, Matilda. Yeah, that's quite important. The nominating committee and the role of the nominating committee. It's actually quite a lot of work. I know for the nominating committee to interview all the candidates and to put all the information together. So our members and each of our members has the right to vote in the board elections, so that they can make a decision about who to vote for. So, I mean, I don't know if people want to comment on that, but there was a discussion also in the last General Assembly how people should present themselves, in what format, what the members would like to hear from the prospective board members, because of course not everybody is able to come physically to Brussels to introduce themselves. And then some people find it unfair that maybe some people can join in person, some people cannot. So if you have any suggestions for us or the nominating committee, that's really welcome. Do we have anybody else? Please don't be shy. No, not at the moment. Maybe I will then ask the board members if they could give us some examples of the work they have been doing for ENIL. This we usually would do at the board meetings, as Nadia said. Maybe Nadia, you've just spoken, but because you also represent ENIL in the EDF Executive Committee and didn't win, so maybe you can also explain a little bit about that.
Okay. So as a grassroots organization, we joined EDF as a full member, because within EDF they have 12 places for European NGOs, and then they have places for national councils of persons with disabilities. So we submitted our candidate and we got voted in, and then the board voted an ENIL representative to be a member of the executive committee. Was kind of is like a board of direction, so the big decisions and fast decision passed through the executive committee. They meet monthly, and yeah, it's a lot of work, in fact, but it's good to defend our independent living perspective within it, which is not always in line with what other national councils or other parental organization used to do. So, and we are heard, and we saw a lot of changes, and we saw also, since we joined them, that EDF now has an independent living page with explication on independent living. and they refer a lot to work that ENIL does. And also sometimes when they have special requests on independent living, they come back to us. So we are quite recognized with that expertise. And so we are, we collaborating also sometimes on general topics just to enforce each other's lobby. For example, our definition about independent living was also something that EDF adopted. So it gave us more visibility also when we go abroad, that it's not again something that ENIL alone comes over it, but now it's also supported with other organizations. And then through EDF, I was representing them at the FRA, the Fundamental Right Agency. They had an advisory panel. So I was representing EDF while we had Zara Todd was representing ENIL. So we had two voices at the advisory panel to try to put independent living on the agenda and also the rights of persons with disabilities. There was a nice work that the FRA has done about deinstitutionalization and the right terminology, and they realized a study in 3 parts where I really advise people to use in the lobbies. It's something very useful. We can send the link afterwards. And I also represent ENIL at WIN, and that's a worldwide independent living network that was established in 2017 during a kind of freedom drive at American level. So there was the National Council of Independent Living in the States who organized this. They do exactly the same as us. They come all together, but they're all centers of independent living. They're not individuals. So they came together, and there was a Japanese delegation, there was a delegation from Costa Rica, there was a delegation from Pakistan present, a delegation from Canada and Costa Rica. Yeah. So we decided in that moment to join forces, and it was all a little bit coordinated and moderated by Judith Newman. In fact, she knows all of us, and she brought us together to start that World Independent Living Network. We have a webinar on it tomorrow, so if you want to know more, just join us tomorrow, and they will be present. People from Japan and Korea, I think, also from Pakistan, Costa Rica, and America. So if you want to be also more involved in independent living on world level, be more than welcome to join us. And even inside ENIL, we can start up a group on working on independent living, on worldwide level. I leave now the space for other people to speak.
Thanks a lot, Nadia. In fact, we have a question from Cesar. Cesar, please go ahead.
I wanted to acknowledge the work of ENIL in general and of the board in particular, but I am worried that maybe we are not focusing on all of the European Union countries at the same level, or rather with the same intensity, but we are, and in a certain way, it has its logic. We're focusing everyone on his or her own country. What is the situation in Europe in general at this point? Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar, for that comment. So Cesar was raising the issue of whether, I guess, how can we make sure that we focus on all of the EU countries equally or as much as needed, because there is that danger that of course the board members, all the board members are activists in their own countries first and foremost, but there is always danger of focusing on some countries more than others. So maybe people would like to comment on that, but maybe I would suggest, because we owe the our captioner a little break, a 10-minute break. So while you're thinking about how to answer Cesar's question, and also about maybe some examples of your work at ENIL, I would propose we have a little break. We have a couple of songs, or one song that we can play. These are songs from Dennis Quinn. Maybe you've heard them in the other events already. We have 6 songs, so we're taking turns between them. And Dennis is a singer-songwriter, a queer singer-songwriter from the UK, and she writes songs about activism and independent living. And they write songs about activism and independent living, and they recorded some songs for ENIL for this Freedom Surf. So Camille, we will not have captioning for that, so you can take a little break. Camille, maybe you can help me and play, and we come back at with the discussion in 10 minutes, so at 7:55.
Yes, sure, I will share my screen and play the songs. In case you don't listen to them for some reason, let me know. Hopefully it will work. I will close my camera so it works better, hopefully. Now let me try. Second. Yes, okay. Sorry, I'm sure it's screen. Sounds. The songs, which by the way are very nice songs. Then should be able to see my screen. Now I will choose one song from them. Let's go for Injustice. Make it also. It's a bit slow, I'm sorry for that. My internet is famous for its speed. But you will probably be okay. The songs are very nice and with nice meanings. So then is this very good? Enjoy. Come on. Sorry, it will work. Work it previously, so it's
Let me know if you want me to try. Okay.
oh, it should be fine.
Long live our movement while we must fight. Long may we resist what is wrong for what's right, till all our descendants can live in the light, not locked behind doors, out of range, out of sight. No, the cause of oppression's not inside me or you. Our bodies or minds or our senses, it's not true. Let's fight for change till the world is for you, for me and for all who come after us too. All now, pull together, find those who are missing, so that we may grow. Even now, it's just the beginning. We've come so far, but there's further to go. Let our shared experiences generate change. Leave nothing undone, fight in all of our ways. Leave no one behind, use well all of our days, till we pass over and go to our graves. Times once again are becoming so tough. Be so social distances feel pretty rough. The carnage our people face is more than enough. But we'll rise again soon for justice with love. All now, pull together, find those who are missing so that we may grow. Even now, it's just the beginning. We've come so far, but there's further to go. Remember activists long before us, the powerful traditions entrusted to us tell radical stories so no knowledge is lost. Our emancipation is waiting for us. All now, pull together, find those who are missing so that we may grow. Even now, it's just the beginning. We've come so far, but there's further to go. All now, pull together, find those who are missing so that we may grow. Even now, it's just the beginning. We've come so far, but there's further to go. We've come so far, but there's further to go.
Okay, let's put one more song since we have the time. Second. I will go back. Let's go with the. Okay, let's try this one. Lucid Boundaries. What did we play as a
Your rules and boundaries are inaccessible to me. I will try my best, but it's hard to do what I don't get. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. And all it's achieved is worrying me. Really would be easier if you included me. Until you brought those rules up, I was set to succeed. I put on my pretty dress, tried to behave my best. No one was convinced, surrounded by friends, but feeling like an alien.
So I think we don't have time for one more song, since they are minimum 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So with this one, the message would be easier if we include it. I think I will pass the floor to Ines. And just to say that we have the lyrics of the songs, and we will put them probably in the descriptions of the videos when we have some time. So if you can access the videos on our YouTube, you will have all the lyrics below the video. You can do that at some point in the video. Hope you enjoyed.
Thanks very much, Camille, for playing this song. Yeah, I hope as well everybody enjoy them. And yeah, the lyrics are really very, very good. Let me just change the view so I can see who's here. Okay, we have people returning. We have another half an hour of the meeting now. So just to encourage everyone to join the discussion and ask any questions if you like. So we had that comment from Cesar before we took the break. Does anybody want to comment on that by any chance? It'd be nice if it was a board member commenting rather than me. Yeah, Michael, thank you. Please go ahead.
Ines, I think Cesar raises a very good point. I think one of the big difficulties for ENIL with limited staff members is monitoring the operation in not just the EU, but all of the member countries of the Council region. And I think where disability issues are not a news agenda item in many countries, some of the stories don't come to fore on any international news websites. So really, we do rely on members from right across the ENIL spectrum to keep us up to date and signpost any information that comes our way, because I think everybody is keen to make a response to anything that is presented to us and follow it up. But the actual monitoring, I think, is difficult. So relying on members and interaction with members, I think, is key to be able to further Cesar's hope and desire that we contribute in the smaller nations.
Thanks for that comment, Michael. Yeah, I can only agree, and I think Cesar is one of our really very active members as well, and he does let us know about a lot of things happening in Spain, and it's really frustrating not being able to react to a lot of them. And then, yes, there are countries where we do even less. So thank you for that comment, Michael. Are there any other questions or comments? Would anybody like to react? If not, then I would perhaps give the board members a chance to explain about some of the work they've been doing at ENIL. And maybe I'll give the floor to Radoš, because I know he has been very active recently. So Radoš, if you don't mind coming in, and then maybe somebody else will volunteer as well.
Ines, can you repeat? Because I just had a urgent phone call, so I was just answering.
Yeah, no problem. I was just saying that it'd be nice that whether you could or the board members would give some examples of the work they've been doing within ENIL, not their own advocacy in their countries.
ENIL is engaged in the work around child's rights, in particular the issue of institutionalization of disabled children and whether the group homes are considered as a form of residential care. And in that regard, recently, well, actually quite last week, there was a day of general discussion held at the level of United Nations to discuss the alternative care for children, including disabled children. And ENIL was acting as part of the broader disability coalition, gathering several international organizations to advocate for the right to family life of all disabled children instead of institutionalization, advocating to support for biological and foster families and any kind of actual family placements that would enable children to grow up in a family. And I was part of that joint endeavor with our partners. So I was helping, for example, to facilitate the calls of this disability coalition. I was speaking in this day of general discussion. I was helping to prepare the draft of the joint statement and joint position of these organizations. So I was volunteering my time to help with this kind of work. Yeah. Sometimes there were instances that some of our individual and the organizational members contact me, from my region, from Balkans, pointing out to some human rights violations, asking ENIL to draft some statement, and to send it to the authorities, in their countries as a sort of reaction on those human rights violations. And I was then taking things back to Ines, and then working with these members to draft those statements, to translate them, and to see what can we do as ENIL to support them. So yeah, those are some examples. I'm also, well, it might be considered as individual initiative, but it is likely that we will do it under the frame, under the banner of ENIL, like parents of children and young adults with intellectual impairments are contacting me, asking, how can we make personal assistance reality for adults with intellectual impairments in Serbia? Because our law doesn't allow to anyone except people with physical impairments to use personal assistance. So it is not a service which is available for adults with intellectual impairments. And now we are about to organize a webinar as ENIL to discuss with these parents and to include maybe some speakers from the countries where we have members, like Brussels, Sweden, Slovenia, to share the examples of good practice, of good legislation, and the good models of organizing personal assistance, so we can support those parents in campaigning, so they can figure out what is the aim of the movement, including parental associations. How can they make personal assistance reality for their children? So yeah, these are some initiatives that I engage from time to time, and that I will be hoping that I will continue to engage in, even when my board mandate expires, because I really think it's vital that we commit our time to in any capacity, including volunteering capacity. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Radoš. And yeah, your time is very crucial for ENIL, I think. I have a message. Sorry, I have been chatting to. I have a message from on my phone on WhatsApp, actually, from Stephen Allen from Validity. He's they're our associate member, and he was watching, following the meeting on YouTube. So he couldn't come in, so he asked me if I would read a message from him. So it's on my phone, so I'll just read it out. So this is from Stephen Allen, and he says, Validity Foundation is proud to be an associate member of ENIL. To us, independent living is one of the most widespread human rights issues affecting disabled people today. As a legal advocacy organization, our mission is to support in any way we can including through pursuing litigation before the European Court of Justice. We hope that legal advocacy will promote real change. We know it isn't easy, but independent living activists at the national level have been important in a number of cases. We are now taking about misuse of European Union funds in Bulgaria and Hungary. And the purpose of this is to stop financing of institutions and group homes and instead support personal assistance, independent living, and real inclusion. So Stephen ends by saying, thank you for your leadership. And thank you, Stephen, for your message as well. And yeah, it was short because he was typing it on the phone, but I think everybody got the message. And maybe just to say, because Jukka isn't here, actually Jukka is a board member from Finland. So we have with Validity Foundation and Jukka taken a complaint to the European Social Rights Committee about the human rights violations in Finland during COVID, where people have been essentially imprisoned in housing units for under the pretense of, protection from the virus. So this case is pending. Still has been made admissible and is pending in front of the committee. And we've had a little bit more information about it on our website, so I can share a link for anybody who's interested. Jukka is a lawyer in Finland, so he has helped Validity draft this complaint. So now I have Camille, who is suggesting who has a question or a comment, and then I will encourage our members who are here to not to be shy and also to come in with any comment or question.
I saw also, before I speak, I saw also Tess raising her hand, so I think she has a priority.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see you, Tess. Go ahead, please.
Me and Redus were at the beginning of March last year to a congress in Brussels about healthcare at hospitalities and doctors in March, a week before the lockdowns goes. And we talk about healthcare and hospitals and our doctors are at home. And also that 2 years ago, also a workshop about neurodiversity at the Freedom Drive in 2019. It was very successful.
Thank you, Tess. Yes, that's right. Tess held a workshop during the Freedom Drive on neurodiversity, and hopefully we can do something similar soon as well. Armen, do you want to go ahead next? And then we go to...
I would like to say a few words, not directly related to ENIL work, but most rather to my country, if you don't mind. So the issue which I want to share, and which is very actual in my country, is terminology. And I'm wondering if it's the same, similar problems in other countries. I will bring an example in my country, in Armenia. Very, very frequently, people, government officials, some journalists use term like people with limited capabilities while speaking about disabled people, and it sounds okay maybe in English or not okay, but in Armenian it sounds just awful. It's just terrible, and it mostly comes from Russian media, not Russian NGOs or DPOs, because they use the correct terminology, like in convention. But unfortunately, the influence is strong, and very frequently at an event, and be it a conference online or offline or other meeting, people name us like persons with limited capabilities, and I have a trick, a life hack for this. I usually reply like, if you here have has unlimited capabilities, please just make me a present and give me like 1 million euro, or maybe you can lift me on your hands to 10th floor or something like that, and it works, you know. But still, in general, this mistake is quite frequent. So my question, if you think it's relevant, is whether similar or again other problems with the language occur in other countries.
Thanks for that comment, and that's a very good comeback. I don't know, would anybody like to comment from their countries? Well, I know some people are not on camera, so I can see Suela, Nadia, Raluca, Michael seems to be gone, but please come in, raise your hand, or just somehow signal that you would like to say something or comment on Armen's. Oh, Dorothy, yes, please go ahead. Hi, Dorothy.
Yeah, sorry, I've sort of come in now. I've been having a bit of a problem with my internet, and I actually couldn't get to the bit where I could raise my hand. But just to say, I just want to say I really sort of empathise with what you're saying. I mean, I think the language issue sounds a real one, and you know, if there's anything I can do from the UK, I'm particularly representing a group called sort of Liberation, where language is one of the things we also address. You know, please be in touch with me.
Thank you. I will, with pleasure.
Thank you, Dorothy. Maybe I can see Matilda now. Maybe Matilda would like to say something. I was just thinking, actually, because France was the last country to be reviewed by the committee, and I was looking at the report a little bit. It's a good report, or concluding observations by the Committee on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And I noticed that one of the main things they were commenting on is the medical approach to disability. And it's also about how people are labeled. So maybe, I don't know, Matilda, do you feel like making a comment?
Yes, it was the first time that we make a report for the CRPD committee, and we have received the help of ENIL, Natasha in particular. And so we discovered everything, the committee and the interview, and in fact, as the government lies during the interview. They said everything is okay. So, of course, we have discussed with the committee before, so they can ask a very precise question, and they understand that the French government not say the truth. So the conclusions of the committee are very strong. But in fact, as we say this morning, it's very difficult to make change when the states and the governments and even a lot of disabled organizations, French disabled organizations, doesn't want deinstitutionalization. And it's very difficult to make hear our voice, and we try. I think that that is very interesting that in France, there is a lot of little organization, collective, and who tries to make change. And for the first time, we tried to work together, and it was good. And maybe it will do a big change, but we don't know.
Thanks, Matilda. Yeah, well, let's hope there will be some changes. Cesar, did you want to say something? Let me see.
Very short, very short. When is the next overview on the European Union by the CRPD, for example, to go on with what I said before, and that Michael rightly interpreted for me? Thank you. If you know.
Actually, we had a meeting with the committee secretariat during the committee session, this committee session that finished not so long ago, and they said that they were hoping to review the European Union next year. So to adopt the list of issues at the session in March, April, and then the actual concluding observations, the meeting after. So that's the August, September meeting. So I think that is the plan. They said that they would publish a sort of confirmation after the session. We hope this is going to be the schedule for the EU review. They also said that they have a really huge backlog of countries because just the committee cannot cope with the amount of work and the number of countries. Because they only manage, especially with this pandemic, they only manage to review about 2 countries per meeting. And there are, I don't know how many countries, loads, hundreds. So, but yeah, we plan to, of course, do an alternative report, especially focusing on Article 19, also Article 12. So yes, we can try to cover as many countries as we can, Cesar. Back to the board. Is that you raising your hand, Nadia?
If nobody else is asking the floor, yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Maybe just to continue above than joining forces to all highlight what went wrong within our countries and also what's under the competence of the EU. It's about human rights, or whatever is government, private money, or something from public. I think we need just to highlight all things what doesn't go well, and also try already to propose alternatives and the way it should go, and what's about meaningful participation. Because as I hear before, even within the disability movement, we don't agree all. If I see, for example, we spoke about terminology, we spoke about different vision. If I give an example of the Belgium National Council, they produced a position paper on General Comment 5 that they disagree with it, because if somebody makes the choice and he wants to live in an institution, we should respect this. They have done the same thing with General Comment 7 about meaningful participation. They found that parent organizations are also representatives, and they know sometimes better than disabled people themselves. So it's not only a fight against our governments sometimes, but also it's a fight against the disability organization who has a lot of money, who has a big structures, who sent all their letters they send a letter to all the ministers to take that position. And then we go to the same ministers asking about independent living, asking a strategic plan about deinstitutionalization. And we are very small comparatively from the big Macedon national councils. So we planned with HIP, for example, we are working on the shot to distinguish ourselves from the other organization because it's not independent living. And I remember that with ENIL, we organized in 2014 a side event at Geneva about stop hijacking our terminology. We really need to continue to highlight this. And every time we go somewhere to put on the agenda what we mean about independent living, what it means to have control, what are the pillars of independent living. And I think if we join forces, if we can make a kind of toolkit that we can use and that we can translate in all the countries and to work on that paradigm shift, because people still see us as vulnerable, especially now with the COVID, people we should take care about them. And I think that they give us more work and we have lesser people. So I think that if we join now really forces, I think that we should work at the paradigm shift, say to people, it's with your tax money that the governments keep separated and segregated settings, and not only but in the living conditions like institution, but also separately in special school, in sheltered workplaces, and so on. So it's something more general, and at the same thing, doing lobbying within places where decision makers and policy makers are there. So it's on different level, and then between us, trying to emancipate, to encourage each other, to find good practices, to exchange what's happening, even if we are small, but if we are together. For example, when I told the independent living mechanism, the monitoring mechanism of the CRPD here in Brussels, that the CRPD committee is working on a paper to highlight urgently how deinstitutionalization is working, they asked me stop to put your work plan of your organization, GRIP, on the agenda. I told them it's not GRIP who's telling this. This comes from the United Nations. It is people who are trying to implement the convention. It's the CRPD committee. And so people are mixing things. So we need to be very clear on our messaging. And so I'm open the floor to every member of every other board to see how we can work in this direction.
Thanks a lot, Nadia. And I think you provoked some hands now. So I have Kapka first, then Dorothy, then Radosh. Kapka, go ahead. We can't see you, but it seems you are somewhere. Oh, there you are. Go ahead, Kapka. Hi.
Wait a minute. Do you see me better now?
Yes.
Not much better. Hello, everybody. It's so great to be with you guys. Nadia, I can imagine how tired you are because I saw you facilitating a previous session around noon. Ines the same. So I'll try, well, Radosh as well. I'll try to be quick, but I want to raise two issues. Well, the hijacking of our terminology is a very important issue. And most of us probably came later on board, but we started with ENIL definitions of key notions. Maybe Ines, correct me if I'm wrong, but 15 years ago, something like that.
It sounds about right.
And we have the key four key definitions on our website. What we need to do is promote them better. And I've been trying hard to get some training for the Commission, for the European Commission, to make sure that they understand these things and that they make sure that national governments are in line with the definitions, at least as far as EU money goes. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. And I'm sure that now you guys follow up on that and probably be more, I don't know, persistent, maybe give them a hard time. But there is another option, I think, which we can use. And this is the second question I wanted to raise. And this is the Recovery and Resilience Facility of the European Union. Probably most of you have heard about it. It's a huge amount of money, huge, coming post-COVID, like 720 plus billion euros. So it's huge amount, and it's going all through Europe. Most of the countries, I would say all countries will benefit. In Bulgaria, there is nothing about inclusion and disability in the Bulgarian plan. I don't know whether you managed to follow in your respective countries whether our issues have been included in these national plans. But I'm curious whether Ines, you know, or somebody from Nadia or from the Secretariat, whether you know anything about the disability issues in this facility. Are there any conditions related to the government, national governments, to get this money? Do you know any details about that? Or maybe not details, or whatever you know about that would be of huge help.
Yeah, thanks, Kapka. Yeah, well, there are regulations also for this recovery and resilience facility, which of course have some, useful language around, I don't know, human rights, or it's not that much, but there is some language there. But then it's about monitoring and interpretation. So there's not that many safeguards actually there. So yeah, it's a little bit difficult to make sure that this money doesn't go into institutions. We have tried so far, and have even had a meeting with the commissioner's cabinet, the equality commissioner, but the reaction was really disappointing. Yeah, we will continue. It's just the beginning, because they don't have to spend the money. They still have to meet some milestones that the commission sets them. But we can send you some information, Kapka. We are following this definitely.
Perfect, great.
But it's hard, actually.
Do you plan to post something on the website? Sort of a brief or something.
Yeah, we can do something to help people engage with this, because what we found is that most people don't really know what to do about this recovery and resilience facility. Because it was all adopted very quickly. There was very little public consultation. The plans were available last minute when they were already published, and they're quite long. I think they're about 800 pages.
It's huge.
Something huge. So it's very hard to.
And it's difficult to read.
Yes.
It's a terrible bureaucratic language, which is absolutely unacceptable. I mean.
But we can try to do something. Thanks, Kapka, for raising that. I'll give because we are supposed to finish. We have
a huge amount of money. That's all I'm saying.
It is. It's an absolutely.
It's a huge amount, and it will go where it shouldn't be going.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I shut up.
Thanks, Kapka. I don't want to shut you up, but I'm looking at the time. And I have Dorothy and Radosh, so I'd like to give them also word. Dorothy.
I mean, I just really wanted to come in support of the point that with Nadia's point that other DPOs sadly are not always supportive, Like, for example, in the UK, one reason why I've now set up a separate group called Liberation is the group of which I was a member, which is a DPO, is now moving backwards rather than forwards. And that's really concerning because, yes, they are now a pretty well-known group. They're pretty well funded. I'm actually having to, work for free, which, I'm gladly doing because the issues are so important. But that's a huge issue because every time we're raising issues, like, for example, on the, in quotes, reform of the Mental Health Act, which is not reform at all, I'm getting opposed by another DPO. So I really just want to say, I think that's a real issue.
Thanks, Dorothy. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Radosh, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on something that Nadia and now Dorothy have said, that challenges that we are facing in finding analysis and even some backward actions of various DPOs, and I'm feeling that human rights argument have the limits in a sense that sometimes we're hitting the wall with the governments which are saying, well, this rights agenda, this is not realistic, or we don't have money for it, or this is not realistic in our country. Like now the legal capacity reform is supposed to happening in Serbia, and they're retaining some form of deprivation of legal capacity, saying that the norms as we interpreted and understanding it from Article 12, like this is not possible simply. And sometimes there is a limit to this human rights argument in a sense that when we hit the wall, the question is, what do we do? And we need to start thinking how to build this movement or grassroots movement, having dozens of people which really understand the core principles and they're even eager to engage in some other forms of democratic engagement, like protesting, being visible and asking what we want, because essentially this is about redistribution of means of funding, like the money going to military, like lots of money in genetic research. So there's a tons of money out there. So things are really possible and realistic. Just I'm saying that mere appeal to human rights argument is having a limits in the context of this need for redistribution of the money and the funds, and this I see that it's only possible if we build this wide movement. So we really need to strengthen the communication between ourselves. And I would say don't hesitate, even to write to board members if you're not sure, like how to interpret certain principles, or to find good practice examples to develop the arguments. Like, yeah, let's write to each other and keep communicating.
Thanks a lot, Radosh. And I think this is a really good kind of point to wrap up the meeting, even though we could discuss longer, but it is quite late for some. But yeah, just to say, just as Radosh said, Radosh's last point, we have, you can reach any of the board members through the secretariat. They are, we have, their names are on our website. They are engaged in a lot of our activities, so you can meet them, find out about what they do. And a lot of people are engaged in small grassroots organizations themselves. So as Radosh said, it's good to build alliances and support each other. We have some language barriers, unfortunately, but we find ways around them somehow. So maybe just to thank everyone for joining the meeting. We had and thank people who watched on the YouTube as well, and thanks to all the board members who presented themselves, talked about their work today a little bit. I don't know, does anybody have any final words or thoughts they'd like to share before we close?
Maybe very quickly.
Go ahead, Camille.
Just to let you know that the Freedom Circuit is continuing for 2 more days with interesting events tomorrow and after tomorrow. So I pasted the link on the chat, but on our website, on the first page, you can see it. So you can find the details. There is a small update for the last day, but okay, you will learn it. You will need to cancel one of the events, but apart of that, everything else is happening, and you have great speakers, very experienced ones. Some of the most popular sessions are tomorrow, actually. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. And yeah, that's it. Also, thank you to the captions.
Yeah, yes, sorry, yes, thank you to the captioners. And maybe just one very final word. We have the meeting with the WIN, of the World Network on Independent Living, the day after tomorrow. I think it's from 3 to 4:30. It will be in that schedule. So okay, thanks, Matilda. So we will have some people who are doing similar things, but in different continents, in different contexts. So it'll be good from here to hear from them as well. So do join us there too, if you can. And well, thank you again, and have a good evening, good night. See you soon.